We will have a pledge to the flag and a prayer, so I'll lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pastor Chester Davis will lead us in the prayer.
Our Father, our God, we thank you now for allowing this community to come together in their leadership. And we pray, oh God, that you touch the hearts and minds of these leaders and our community as a whole. Bless us, oh God, to make proper decisions, oh God, in order, that we'll be a blessing, oh God, not only to our city, but to our nation. We thank you now for these minds and pray that you'll lead them. We thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. We'll call the meeting to order. And the first item of business this morning, I've asked Sarah Hines of the Health Department to come before us with her team and give us a little report on their preparations for the coronavirus. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate you.
I appreciate this opportunity. Like you said, my name is Sarah Hines. I'm the administrator for the Florida Department of Health in Gulf and in Franklin. And we're just here to give you a brief update on coronavirus, some of the efforts that we're handling locally and what you can do from preventive measures. And I'm going to let DT Simmons speak for a little bit, and we're just going to kind of pass it off back and forth. She's my public information officer for Franklin, and she serves as the backup for Gulf. So this is DT. Get to know her well. We've got Jessie Pippin in the back. Would you stand? She's our other public information officer. So I just want to make sure you see the faces. And then this is Lisa Hogan. She's our up-and-coming director of nursing. So I wanted to make sure to bring them here so that you all know who they are. You can talk to them, reach out to them anytime.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Good afternoon, commissioners. As she said, my name is DT, and I am the Deputy Public Information Officer, Department of Health in Gulf and Franklin County. I just wanted to let you all know that Sunday evening, a press release went out from the Department of Health's central office in Tallahassee, the Office of Communications. That press release detailed the status of Florida with the coronavirus, also called COVID-19. In that press release, it mentioned the two presumptive positive cases, one of which is in Hillsborough County and one of which is in Manatee County. We shared that press release with you all, but we also took the liberty of sharing it with our partners and our community at large. We've been actively very engaged in enhanced surveillance of this respiratory illness and anything we even think that could possibly be COVID-19. Lisa here, our epidemiology nurse, is going to tell you a little bit more about our efforts over the last couple of weeks and where we're going to be going forward and how you two at home and whatnot can try and join in with us in preventive measures.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. You can.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I'll start. So we've actually kind of been around the scene today in a lot of community outreach opportunities. So this morning they were at the Franklin Board of County Commission meeting. We just had a Community Health Improvement Partnership meeting, and now we're here. So we're trying to make sure that we have the same message. And so yes, like she said, the Florida Department of Health is actively involved in enhanced surveillance for respiratory illness that may be COVID-19. So if you hear COVID-19, it's the same thing as coronavirus. Last week we met with our hospital partners both in Gulf and Franklin to discuss strategies and share the latest healthcare guidance. We continue to make sure that all of our healthcare partners have the latest information available to respond timely. That's the first place that we start, always. The best way to prevent illness is to avoid being exposed to the virus. And as a reminder, the department always recommends everyday preventive actions to help impede the spread of respiratory diseases. And this is, if you've seen my emails come out, this is where we've been focusing. So avoiding close contact with people who are sick, staying home when you're sick, avoiding contact with persons in poor health, avoid touching your eyes, nose, mouth with unwashed hands. It's harder than you think, so try to avoid it. Covering your cough or sneeze with a tissue and then disposing of that tissue. Washing your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Especially after going to the bathroom, before eating, after blowing your nose, coughing or sneezing. 20 seconds is the same thing as singing the happy birthday song twice, okay? Very easy, my 6-year-old does it every day. If soap and water are not readily available, use alcohol-based hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol. Always wash hands with soap and water if hands are visibly dirty. Okay? In cleaning and disinfecting, frequently touch objects and surfaces using a regular household cleaning spray or wipe. I watch our custodial staff come to our offices every day and wipe down our handles on our door handles. So just simple things you can do with frequently touched surfaces. The CDC does not recommend that asymptomatic healthy people wear a face mask. I'm sure you've seen some media coverage on that to protect themselves from respiratory diseases. That includes COVID-19. Face masks should be used by people who show symptoms of COVID-19 to help prevent the spread of the disease to others. And the use of face masks is also crucial for health workers and people who are taking care of someone in close settings, at home or in a healthcare facility. A person that experiences fever and symptoms of respiratory illness, such as fever, cough, or shortness of breath within 14 days after travel from China, Italy, Iran, South Korea, Japan, and any other destination under CDC travel advisory, so we're keeping up with the CDC on the latest guidance there, should call ahead to their local health provider and local county health department and mention their recent travel and close contact. Larger counties may just advise that they practice isolation at their home, but we're very small and it's okay to contact us. That's what we're here for. If a person has had close contact with someone showing these symptoms who's recently traveled from this area or been in contact with a person with a laboratory confirmed COVID-19, they should just go ahead and call a healthcare professional and then call the health department. The healthcare professional, they know the drill. They're going to work with the health department to determine if the person should be tested. There's a specific algorithm in place that we use. No cases in Franklin and Gulf. And if residents have any questions about COVID-19, they can reach the health department here. The phone number is 850-227-1276. We're going to have a call on it where it says, for information about COVID-19, press something, so that they can reach us anytime. We're available 24/7. And that's the basic information that I have at this time. Yes.
And in keeping up with people having varying literacy rates, and in order to reach the masses in both of our communities, we have some flyers that we have been posting around and sharing with our partners, friends, and residents. Jesse Pippin has those, and we'd like to give them to you all today as well.
Thank you.
And then there's quite a few, so we'll also stick them on the table in the back so that everybody can take
Good.
them.
Thank you very much.
The first one's kid-friendly, and then the second one is just for the general population. Hey,
Hi.
guys.
Good.
I gave you two. Right.
Keep going.
This is an evolving situation, just so you know. So I'm going to continue to send out updated information as it comes in, and I'll just make sure I get everybody's contact information.
Sarah, thank you for coming at short notice. I think everybody needs to hear that we are prepared, and that's the main thing. No reason to panic. We just follow these simple guidelines. And Sarah, I was going to ask you two things. You recommend the flu shot for those who still haven't gotten the flu shot?
Yes, we always recommend the flu shot. Flu shots are available at the health department. Just call us again at 850-227-1276. Schedule your appointment and we can set you up.
And you guys have test kits for the COVID-19?
Test kits are actually available at our state laboratories. So what we'll do is we'll reach out to the healthcare partners, the hospital, to make sure that we coordinate that testing.
Good. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Sure. I appreciate you coming.
Well, I
very
appreciate
much.
you. Thank you.
I think main message is to be prepared, and we'll get through it.
Yes, we will.
Okay, we'll go to the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes of regular meeting of February 18th, pages 1 through 14. think Mr. Attorney has some input he would like to read into the minutes
Yes.
before we approve or
Yes, Mayor, I have 3 Form 8B memorandum of voting conflict for county, municipal, and other local public officers. 2 of them deal with Commissioner David Ashbrook. He executed both of these on February 18. One deals with Ordinance 566, and one of them deals with Ordinance 567. He had a conflict with the person who made the application. The last one is for Commissioner Lowry, who executed it on 2/18/220, dealing with the preserve at St. Joe Bay development, and he has a relationship with the developer, and those will be attached to the minutes.
Okay. All right, everybody get that? So is there a motion to approve them as presented?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second. Motion second in discussion. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passed 4-0. Okay. Now, let's see, building department, we don't have. Long-term recovery was here last meeting. PSJRA, Commissioner Ashbrook.
We approved our budget today with some amendments, and we are moving forward. That's all we have right now, Mayor.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Attorney?
Yes, Mayor, the only update that I have is I did speak to Charles Costin yesterday with regards to the tennis court lease, and he had no problem with the way that the lease was written. It is supposedly on the agenda for the school board today.
Good, okay.
And that's all I have.
Let's get some tennis courts pretty soon. All right. Okey-doke, old business, Mr. Jim.
Yes, sir. The first item we have is a reference to alarm calls. We had a brief discussion about 2 meetings ago. I just want to continue the discussion. It was asked that we bring the fire chief in, John Ford. He's here today, trying to get you up to speed as to what we are seeing and what kind of calls are coming into the police department, fire department.
John, you want to come forward?
Good afternoon.
How you doing?
All right, y'all. In the last 6 months, we have had 35 alarm calls, false alarm calls. Of that 35, we responded to 32 of them, which rounds about number just for the firemen alone, $2,800. That's not counting the price to run the fire truck or nothing like that. One of the places we went 9 times within 32 days. My question to y'all, can we implement something after the 5th time so we can start charging these people, get these people's undivided attention, say, hey, call the company, come fix your alarms.
I think it's something we need to consider. I don't know if we would have to, I assume, Mr. Attorney, would have to pass an ordinance that would address that, but certainly see the need for it.
Okay.
Yeah, Mayor, I think I brought up last time, and it isn't intentional, I doubt. Most of the time, it's not people pulling a pull station. It's alarm company issues. And I thought long and hard about it, and the way that the mainstay is set up, they automatically, the alarm company calls the fire department. I think that there should be a way where we can change that to where they call the front desk, and then we can call the fire department. I don't think that's what's gonna happen, is we're gonna end up shutting off that immediate connection if we do this. So I'm fine with it either way. I think we'll just have to work with the people that are getting the false alarms. They'll have to work with their alarm companies to come up with a different way of notifying them.
And do we find the alarm company, or do we find the business that employs the alarm company? So
That's a $100 question.
Yeah.
So, but definitely we need to keep it in front of us. So maybe we can come up with a solution. Everybody would start thinking about what we should
I don't think it's fair to the people who aren't creating the problem.
Well,
They're the ones, me included, and everybody else in this room. If you live in the city, we're having to pay for it.
Exactly.
So, I support the idea of billing. You can call it a fine, whatever you want, but they need to pay. If we're paying, we say $2,000, not counting the wear and tear on the vehicle.
$2,800 not. That's just fireman's pay.
And that was in how long a time frame?
6 months.
Yeah.
Since that time, we've had 2 more alarm calls. that are not on this report.
Chief, is it mostly the same business? Is there a lot of businesses or?
The one we were having trouble with, yes, sir, one
Okay.
business. Normally, you know, alarm call for most businesses, like some of the hotels, 2 to 3 times a year. My recommendation is put 5 calls a year. After 5 calls, you know, we start taking action against that.
John, are they mostly businesses or residentials?
90% business, sir. We do have several residences on here too.
So what's the pleasure of the board?
I'm gonna fix it on my end, Mayor, so.
There we go, there's 90%.
I think we need to see what the attorney, what he thinks, what we can do about it, you know, legally.
I will definitely look into it and see what our options are with regards to how we charge people, what we charge them, what other municipalities are doing with regard to this. I'll definitely look into it and have some answers for you.
That'd be great. Thank you. Yep. Thank
Thank
you, John. Appreciate it.
All right, the next item is in reference to the government complex grant. We got some good news that came our way since the last meeting. We have the survey in front of you today that outlines the 5.1 acres to move forward on signing the contract, and we also have the green light from Department of Economic Opportunity to use the full amount of the $312,500 towards the purchase of the property on there. So at this point, what we need to decide is if everybody's happy with the survey, we move forward and authorize the mayor to go ahead and sign off on the contract and move forward with the closing.
Nice piece of property, guys. Been down there to see it. It's 5 point, what'd you say, Jim?
5.1 acres, I believe, is
Okay.
what it
All
says,
right.
Mayor, plus or minus.
It's an awfully crooked fence.
We got to look at that too. We were trying to figure out the lines, but it actually, if you actually go and walk the property, me and Mr. Grant, they went and looked at it, actually, they cut out their buildings that were existing there, is why you have the jagged edge.
And Jim, what's the funding source for the building itself? Is that going to be CDBG money?
That's one of the options that definitely we're vying for. You'll see later on in the agenda, we have a task order for our grant writer to go out there and start looking at this kind of things. But yes, sir, I would highly recommend that that be one of your asks in the CDBG deal.
So we'll need a motion to go ahead with the project of purchasing that property and authorizing to sign the contract and move forward.
So move.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Langston. There's a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ashbrook. We'll open the floor for discussion. Any discussion? Anybody from the audience got a comment? Ask where it is. I think most of you know by now, but be glad to go over it again. Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed 4-0. So we'll get that signed, and I know that George Gonzalez is going to be in town this week. So we're, for something else, I want to get up with him, see if we do a mock signing of the contract and exchange the check and so forth for a little PR. So we'll see if he's going to be available to do that. So we got it going, guys. That'll help us with this new business item on down the agenda.
The next-
Okay, go ahead.
Sir, the next item we have, Mayor, is the Paces Foundation, the next phase. We had a workshop on it a few weeks ago. What they are asking for at this point in time is 3 items before moving forward with a full development order request. They are looking at the entranceway, the waiver of the request for a new entranceway, reduction in the parking spots, and a 25% reduction in the impact fee for you today.
Okay, fellas, we got it in front of us, don't have to, but probably need to go ahead and make a decision on what we want to do and what part of the request that they sent to us that we want to allow. So I'll open up the floor for a discussion.
think the traffic problem has not been solved, but it's diffused out over 6 streets at this point with this new plan. I like the way that works. Probably eliminates all traffic on Broad, actually.
Well, maybe if it'll minimize it, let's put it that way.
My feelings are if we're gonna look at modifying the traffic flow, let's modify both the entrance and the exit. I like that idea because we had discussed only the exit being changed, but by doing entrance and exit, it pretty much takes all the traffic off of Broad and divides that traffic flow into either 2 roads on one side or 3 roads on the other side.
Were you referring to the page 19? Is that satisfactory to you? Would you like to see a modification of that?
Yeah, I was actually looking at 18, wishing it was blown up better, and now I find out that's what 19 is.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, exactly. The other item that we had discussed was the issue with our city policemen. I want to make sure that that's resolved to our satisfaction.
Yeah, can we hear from them about that?
Absolutely. Anybody from Paces Foundation want to speak to questions?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good afternoon, I guess. Michael Bauer, Paces Foundation, Community Development Director. And we investigated the issue and the concern after hearing at the last meeting that there was a thought that if on the increase of income that the local officer residents who lived in the community would have to move out. That is not correct. We investigated with funding sources, our management company, and on the increase of income, they may see an increase in their rent, but they would not be requested to move out by any means. That's not the nature of the program. It's designed that when your income increases, you are not restricted from the housing. You qualify as you come in.
So you're talking about anybody that lives there, if they get a better job and increase in pay, they're not forced to move up?
That is correct. It's all based on the section 42 of the IRS code in conjunction with HUD, and the tax credit program is designed that way.
Was that just a mistake in the local office management position by telling residents that it was their understanding they would have to leave?
I think it was just a misunderstanding.
Okay.
The management at the property knows the rules inside and out. They're a national company, and I think it was just a concern that they would have to leave, but that's not the case.
Okay, the other item that kind of spun off of that topic was my request to your company to supply 2 apartments. Actually we started at free, and then I believe you were going to counter with that today on some type of discount. One would be for the city police department, and one would be for the sheriff's department. I believe there's value in the fact that the officer is there, their vehicle is there, officer presence is there, and most, I shouldn't say most, several apartments and complexes see that value and give a discount, if not supplying a free apartment to the local law enforcement. And I'm just wanting to hear what your answer to that request is.
Absolutely. We see that value as well, great value. I'm not prepared today to commit to the exact solution, but I believe once we get past this vote and get into the development order, we will have a solution that meets that meets your criteria. And yes, we are considering a free one.
I had a question about the 14 units that are still down. Has construction or reconstruction started on those units?
We have our maintenance supervisor there today, our company-wide maintenance supervisor. They're exploring exactly where we are. We have not been funded by insurance. However, we're considering to start in advance of that. I don't know if you're aware, the siding that was on the property was a vinyl siding. We chose at a $350,000 increase in cost above insurance to put on hardy cement board siding. That's a much more solid sealed surface and to prevent any future water damage or storm damage. And so that was the first expense, but even in lieu of the insurance, we are looking to accelerate our construction. We, as anyone, would want the income. I mean, we want the revenue to increase. We want the units available for people who want them, who need them.
What's your time frame with getting those units done?
I don't have an exact date, but we're trying to decide if we're going to step in immediately. That's why we have a crew there today.
You know, I just have a feeling that if things go well today with this, that the development order would be dependent on those units being completed. I think that would be a reasonable.
Well, I can assure you, those units will be completed.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I think, at least 2 meetings ago, when you guys first came to us, I think that was brought up, which probably 6 weeks ago, I guess, and nothing been done between then and now. It's a little bit concerning to me that you're going to do what you said you're going to do, and we need to have that assurance, because if you need more units, you got 14 right under your nose, boom, it's already built.
We're absolutely going to fix the units.
Yeah.
And we may accelerate and do that ahead of any insurance proceeds. So, which means a large cost. As you
Sure.
mentioned.
Well, and you could move forward today, and then when the development order comes before us, that vote could be contingent upon two
right.
things. One, the apartment deal, and two, if we can ask the question, are those apartments finished or not? So I think, you know, the same theory that you want to use on postponing, deciding how we, what kind of deal we reach on a discount for the 2 officers, we'll use that same option with the development order.
That's fair.
Yeah, I
That's
think
what
it is too.
Yeah.
I don't think that's too much to ask.
Appreciate it.
Any more questions?
One of the things that we discussed as a board was instead of a 25% waiver of fees, that would have to come at the back end when you get a certificate of occupancy. Is that something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah, and
certainly
that's
fine.
the way it should be on any new
Right.
development
Correct.
that asks for a discount.
That's
They
just,
get it when they're completely built after the CO.
that's just a timing, phasing process. That's all.
I think that the entrance and exit, it doesn't solve the traffic issue, which is, it's gonna be difficult to solve it anyway. I think that it helps it, and maybe in the future we can improve on it. But it does show me that you are at least trying to help out with this issue, trying to avoid because those guys on Broad Street, I'm telling you, they were having a fit. So I think
This will eliminate that.
yeah, it should. But I'm just thinking that it's gonna flush everything down the other street. But I guess we'll see. We'll
It'll be
find out.
diluted.
Yeah.
It's a good question, Commissioner Langston. Brings this to mind. Is that going to be built up front? This new traffic routing, which probably would help what's there now, not even counting what's possibly going to come in the future. I'd like to see that
Phase 1.
done, phase 1 done before anything else, to see if it would solve the problems, because there's the problem there now with just what they have.
Once we mobilize for the start of construction, we can put that as a priority to start from.
That'd be part of the development order.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. And people get used to it as well.
Sure.
Right, okay. All right, any more questions? Thank you, sir.
Just one more,
Okay.
and it's just been on my mind. As far as your management company, it has nothing to do with you, right? I just want to know the circumstances when you saying that some of the guys, some of the people, tenants there that were kicked out. Was it anybody kicked out due to their income increasing, or that never happened, or was it the management that did it? What are you going to do to make sure that doesn't happen again?
Well, I mean, that's a breach of law if that's the case. And we are audited and monitored by Florida Housing, by HUD, by inspectors quite often who come through and look at the files, and they look at the property, and they look at the residents.
I just want to make sure that we be fair.
Yeah,
That's the only
absolutely.
thing, you know.
The basis of the Section 42 is not to penalize someone for increasing their income.
Well, and I think it's fair to say there was some confusion
There was.
at the office because I asked personally if our city policeman had been told they had to vacate, and the answer was yes, because him and his wife are both employed. That's what I was told.
Their
So-
income increased.
Yes.
But they shouldn't have been told that they.
I agree, but they were. So I'm thinking, as
We will correct
Commissioner
that.
Langston is pointing out,
Mhm.
there may have been people previously told the same thing and actually had to leave.
We'll investigate.
Yeah, thank you.
I just think that if someone's improving their income and their family lives, they shouldn't be forced to move because of that. And that I just don't think it's fair. And you really need to stay on top of that. And that's all a part of your management.
Absolutely. No, we agree that that's a good thing, increasing income.
Yes.
Okay. Any more? Okay.
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you.
We're moving on to new business. The first item we have
Are
is.
we gonna vote on, somebody wanna vote on,
I'll make a motion to accept the letter.
with the 25% waiver after,
After, correct,
completion?
after the completion.
Okay, and with 1.5 parking spaces and a new entrance.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
I second.
Okay, second by Commissioner Langston. Any discussion, any more discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed 4-0. Okay, gentlemen, we'll wait for that development order now.
Thank you, All right, the next item we have is the rate study task order. We had a discussion at our last meeting. I don't think any of us were too happy with the price that came in there initially on there. Mr. LaCour and I have had a conference call with the rate study folks to try to reduce the cost down. We have reduced it down to $25,000. This would include looking at your utility rates, a wholesale water rate, and also the impact fees. We did pull a few of the items out of there as far as the time for senior management from Stantec to review it, and also about the comparison of rates, which we could call around and get a comparison if you want to do on that. But we got it down to $25,000. That is pretty much inclusive of what you had before.
We budgeted 15,000, so that leaves 10,000 from pulling it somewhere. Mike, you have a recommendation on that?
We do have 12,000 budgeted for Ray Greer and Stantec work, and we've not expended any of that money so far. We've been able to include all of Ray's expenses in with the commercial project developers, so we haven't had any expenses, so theoretically that 12,000 is available for us to use if we so desire.
The staff recommendation is to go ahead with
I
it
think so.
because of our loan, as well as we just need to know if we're out of the ballpark, in the ballpark, or we just need to lower our rate some, or whatever we need to do.
This is the roadmap that's been in place since 2010 that has served the city well to date. So our staff recommendation to move
Well, it's
forward.
been 10 years since we had a full study.
No, sir, we've had it in place for 10 years. We started in 2010. We had a review 5 years ago, so it's time.
We had a full review 5 years
Yeah.
ago. Okay. Okay. Anybody have questions about that?
I think we need to do it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Motion to accept
We
the
got-
proposal, Mayor.
Okay, there's a motion to accept the recommendation of staff for the rate study in an amount of $25,000. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed 4-0.
The next item we have is the parking workshop. We did establish a date, which to remind everybody is set for April the 14th at 6 o'clock here for parking.
Yeah, and I got a blast from the chamber today that, and that was listed as one of the upcoming items, so hopefully they'll stay in contact with all the businesses and they'll have some representatives here and we can move forward with that. We also talked about increasing parking on Williams Avenue today at the PSJ meeting, and so hopefully we'll not solve the problem, but we'll help minimize it. Okay, next item.
The next item is another workshop that's been scheduled. This is the NERDA grant workshop. This is the stormwater workshop that we have had the first one. This will be the second one that we're working with DEP and the Water Management District on. It's scheduled for 3/24 at 5 o'clock.
Okay. And that will be on our, all our social media sites, webpage, everywhere, Facebook. Okay. All right, next item.
The next item we have is the CDBG DR grants. We had a workshop here with Department of Economic Opportunity last month. Now's the time to start kicking it off, to turn it over to our grant writer, start looking at funding such as the government complex, utilities, to find out exactly what we can or cannot qualify for. So before you today, we have a task order, a maximum of $10,000, $125 an hour for to start that process. The rules still have not come out at this point as far as what the application process, but we've got to get the ball rolling on this. These are big grants.
Yeah, and the person group are pretty experienced in these type of grants, and that's going after the $715 million that was just sent down from the federal government, and for just 5 affected counties. So there's lots of money there, and we hope to get our fair share of it. We certainly need it. And what did you say that amount was, Jim?
Maximum of $10,000 to start the process, $125 an hour.
We need to be ahead of the game, fellas. We really do. Is there a motion to accept the recommendation of staff for the task order? So moved by Commissioner Ashbrook. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Hoffman. Discussion. Anybody in the audience want to talk about it? All right. All in favor, aye? Aye. Same sign, motion passed 4-0. Let's see if we can get some money.
That's all I had to do.
Okay, Public Works, Mr. Grant.
Yes, sir, Mayor, thank you. There's, under Public Works, there's 2 line items for the board's consideration today. Both are task orders from Dewberry for separate projects, the first being the First Street Lift Station. That task order would include the design, engineering, permitting, and inspection, of that site. We do have the site acquired through the St. Joe Company, so if it's the board's desire to proceed forward, this would be the next step.
Funding source?
We continue to negotiate with both insurance and FEMA, and we don't have any estimate now. We did submit, John and Clay got together and submitted $1 million estimate or expenses, and we've submitted that to our insurance company. They're indicating they're going to have their private engineer firm review the cost estimates, and they've not made a final decision on the amount of support. They're indicating they will support us more than the $100,000 that we had coverage on the so we were underinsured on the lift station significantly. But they're indicating that they will support us, but I've not gotten any firm answer from either insurance or FEMA yet on an estimate of funds.
We have $73,000 in the bank for that project.
We do have a funding. We have an escrow account of $109,000 that we've had for some time. That's wastewater related. There was the cleanup of the headworks, the old headworks facility. We received $112,000 from St. Joe Company. We escrowed that money. We've been sitting on it. We have that money available for sewer projects, and we've not used it since then. So that would be a funding source we have in reserves that we could pull to cover these expenses.
We need to know what it's going to cost us to, so when we go out to bid, so we can afford to do it. I mean, you've got to have this before we can even go out and bid. So, I mean, we've got to do it.
Yeah. $73,000, see how many millions we need to spend.
If we can get lucky with Clay's help, get a little lucky and bids may come in under a good bit under $1 million, we can use the money for the other lift station.
And having those real-world bids would help us with our negotiation with insurance and with FEMA.
Absolutely. So,
I support it, Mayor. I'll make a motion.
okay, motion to, for the Dewberry task order for First Street. Is this just First Street you're asking for, John?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, motion, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second for a task order for Dewberry to get us going on First Street lift station. Any discussion, any more discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passed 4-0. Okay?
All right, Mayor, and the second task order is for the creation of the as-built drawings we spoke about several meetings ago. So once again, if it's the board's, desire to move forward on that project, then, the task order is there for your approval.
This is just to digitize all your maps, correct?
That's correct. It will be to create, the files, if you will, based on geographic region or area, for sewer and water.
That gets us in the 21st century and make it easy for staff and everyone, engineers and everyone. I think it's something we probably should do. Is there a motion to approve that task order, $10,000?
So moved.
Okay, there's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Is there a second? Okay. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Mr. Clay, you can get busy on that.
That's all I had, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Larry, surface water.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one item. The water plant has passed the first quarter of state testing for dissipated byproducts, and all sites tested were well below the EPA standard. I just thought I'd say that for the record.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
on that.
Mayor, that was some of the lowest numbers too. We've seen it, the plants, since the plant's been in operation. And
Yes, that's correct.
Fantastic.
very good.
That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Larry. Wastewater, Kevin?
Nothing new from the group unless there's questions from the
Do you
board.
have any questions for Kevin? Everything must be going good then.
It's working well.
Good deal. Good deal. All right, Mike?
Just as I stated earlier, that we're still in negotiation with insurance and FEMA. The big items we have open with FEMA that have not been finalized is the police station, Pate Park Pavilion, the Maddox House, the EWS garage and compactor, the bridges at Buck Griffin Lake, and the lift stations. So those major projects have still not been finalized. Oh, and the lighthouse have not been finalized with FEMA, but we're getting close.
Right. They're still meeting weekly?
We are still meeting weekly, yes, sir.
Right. Very good.
What's these meetings about that we can't go ahead and move forward because every time it's the same thing, saying that we're getting closer, we're getting closer. So
All of these projects are in FEMA's court,
yeah,
and they have specialists that review them and periodically request information from us on these, and I can't, and then once FEMA finishes with it, they push it through the state. And then if it's a large project, then the state does an independent review of it. So that's what is causing the delay on a lot of these larger projects. But certainly all of these are in their court. They're not waiting on anything from us.
yeah, I understand that. It's just that it's going on 2 years now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Bureaucracy.
We still haven't moved forward.
Yeah, if you think about where we started, for instance, on Pate Park Pavilion, their initial calculation was $26,000 to repair and replace that pavilion. So obviously we've come a long way. They're at $235K now. So it's a continuing process of giving them information and them going through it and then sending it back to us and then us objecting and resubmitting and trying to find new avenues to get them to push their numbers higher. So it's not a smooth process,
Wait till next year.
On we go.
Oh, yeah. Anything else, Mike?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Okay, Clay? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. The only thing he's actually, I think, from y'all today is on the Scott grant. We talked about it last meeting. Got different options, Madison, Avenue A. I don't know if y'all had thoughts one way or the other. If y'all could get some guidance if you want to make application on that, or you want us, what you want us to do on it.
Tell me those once again.
We talked about Madison in front of the high school. We talked about Avenue A from railroad tracks back in '98. Those are the two main ones. I wonder if we mentioned it.
Mr. Grantham brought one to my attention too, Mayor, that we don't have utilities in, was it Avenues A, B, C, and D up to MLK?
Okay to 98.
Okay.
Those are-
BCD.
The utilities there are fairly new, so.
B
those
was
are-
done under the road line.
We-
That block, what, is it B?
I think it
B,
was-
B, C, and D were all low pressure. They were pushed, pushed down.
I think
to-
B was done a year or so ago.
think
That
so.
block was, so
Right.
maybe A, C, or D.
Yeah, you see,
Sure.
sure.
You get
The
some
ones that
storage.
have not been done, I'd say, you know, put all those in. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. 'Cause we don't want to put it in and then have problems, so. Yeah. Anybody else got anything?
Okay.
Thanks, sir.
Again.
Yep, thanks, sir. Code enforcement, I think, Jim, Special Master, got anything coming up?
Yes, sir, we have two hearings this Thursday here. I believe they are starting at, is it 5 o'clock? 5 o'clock.
All right. Moving along, Mr. Police Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything on the agenda, just the board has something for me.
Just the drawings update for the police department, so we can possibly go out and bid for that. How's Mr. Akery doing with that?
He got us the original one, the original plans. He sent 2 more, he's still tweaking it. He's trying to find a way to put us an interview room in there. So
Okay.
we were able to do away with the stairs on the front that we're not gonna rebuild, so he's still working on it.
Good deal, so.
Hopefully,
So you and your guys working with him closely on
Yes,
that? and get-
yes, sir.
Basically get what you want.
he emailed me at 8 o'clock this morning with a new drawing that he's tweaked, so he's working on it. He'll be there soon, I'm pretty sure.
Great, look forward to that. Okay, any questions? All right, thank you, sir. All right, Ms. Pierce?
Just remind you that on page 34 is our election timeline for the upcoming election. Qualifying begins this month. And the supervisor of election is handling everything for us. We're working with them on it. And the election in May will be held in their office again this year. Worked extremely well last year for everyone.
All right. This posted also, Ms. Charlotte?
Yes, sir, posted here, City Hall on the web, it's in the Star. And well posted, yes,
Thank
sir.
you very much. All righty. Citizens to be heard, please come forward.
Mr. Mayor, Christy McElroy, Woodward Avenue, Port St. Joe. And before I begin, I want to hand you something and then I'll enter it into a record after I'm finished.
Okay.
And I do want to ask you, before I get started, I noticed they cleared the trees where the county bought the property on Marvin. And a little curious about what the county is planning for that. And that will kind of begin our discussion.
Right. Except I know they cut the trees.
Okay. All right, well then, let's kind of walk through that a little bit, because my understanding is they want to utilize that area for parking for the ball fields. And, you know, I think just like anybody, they need to have development orders and they need to let everyone know what they're going to be doing.
Yeah, they would have to have that.
Well, with all due respect, I've seen some homes come in and, you know, through this repair and just start dumping dirt. And then I've talked to Jim about this and no one knows anything about it. We have to understand that that is a neighborhood. There was a house there. I'm not sure why the county spent TDC dollars to the tune of $65,000 to buy that. They said they wanted it for parking. That's not consistent, nor is it compatible with the neighborhood. And if we just allow people to, you know, sell their property, knock down a house, and create a parking lot, that's not good economic sense for the city.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think when they request a permit from the building department, something we'll have to look at that the attorney may be busy on, because it is zoned what? Residential. Is that correct, Jim? That property is zoned residential. Okay, all right.
And that's great. I want to put that out there because, again, I think this whole thing has not exactly been very transparent from the county's perspective. So now I'd like to just turn over, you know, I was a little disturbed by the way the county sort of spun some things at their last county meeting. I did call you, talk to you a little bit about my concerns. I think the main thing is, you know, you're only as good as the information that you receive. And I think, you know Mr. Novak has filed some complaints due to the harm done to his office to the tune of about over $500,000 that he's trying to collect from the city. I don't know if those two are married and why they're trying to twirl things up, but it's counterproductive. So I'm kind of here to put a pin in all of this yah-yah about the ball fields. Let's recall, you had a deed, you still have a deed. It's 60 acres given to the city. You have an interlocal agreement that was updated in 2013 when Mr. Phil McCrone sat on this board. He never said anything about not honoring that agreement, and now he's a county commissioner. And for whatever reason, I don't understand why he would want, nor Mr. Quinn, to put a full-scale sports complex behind our homes. Doesn't make sense. Or why Mr. Quinn, instead of going through the TDC and working through that entity, created his own subcommittee, which we were not allowed to be a part of. So here's what we have. We have the Dewberry document between the county and Dewberry for a pipe that would go from 8th Street to 16th Street in an effort to create a sports complex. You cannot create that sports complex.
We know that. We know that.
No, obviously, you may know that, but Mr. Mayor, what we need from you is the kind of leadership that you would go to Mr. Quinn and you would go to Mr. McCrone and show him this drawing that clearly says you need a pipe in order to create a sports complex. You don't have enough real estate. Now, let's go a little bit further to this NERDA grant and the interactions between Dewberry and Northwest Florida Water Management, who also said, hey, we probably want to make a sports complex out there. So can you make sure that, you know that for this NERDA grant, communications are in there. I asked for the communications. And then let's just look at what happened to us. 4 feet of water behind that. Whoever thinks this is a good idea to put this sports complex in a wetland behind our home, they need to have their head examined.
Let me know on this, Christie. We're getting ready to stop you anyway.
Yes, sir, that's fine.
But correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that lawsuit stopped all of that. It did?
It did.
Well, what's
And-
the point?
Well, the point is, why is the county and why is the county staff still twirling this up? It's because the county commissioners are not educated. And I would ask for you to step in and talk to those county commissioners and remind them, not only would you drown these people, not only do you have 60 acres out there, and not only have they already been ravaged by a storm, we can't do this without a development order. And we can't do it without a pipe that would drown these people.
Okay.
That's all I've got, and I hope I don't ever have to come here again and talk about this
I agree
nonsense.
with you.
It's stupid.
Thank you.
Get her done.
Okay, anybody else, any other citizens like to be heard? Okay. Mr. Hoffman, you'll be next.
I don't have
First.
anything, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Mr. Ashford.
Peters Park Gym, did that ever get put on the website, on our city site? Did we ever get that put on there?
As far as trying to showcase some different avenues.
Just listing it as an available park?
Yeah.
Let me double check.
I looked it up today, earlier, it's not on
I don't
there.
think it has.
It came up at the redevelopment meeting today.
I'll see if I can get a hold of Rick Lambert, see if we can get some shots put on.
Yeah, we need that.
That's all I have.
Mr. Langston.
Hey, I'd like to say we need to start trying to get softball field over in Peters Park fixed up, because they start playing softball in probably another couple of months. Just look at the dugouts and the landscape of it. That's about all right now.
I believe Mr. Brandon has the dugout scheduled and the field to be working on, but I'll.
Yeah, let me just, I'm glad you brought it up. We plan on trying to get it this week, Commissioner, and taking care of that field. Now, as it relates to the dugouts, I was approached by the baseball Dixie Youth, I guess, director this year, Scooter Akery. And there was a gentleman in town that wanted to sponsor a team, but all the sponsorships were gone. So in lieu of, he is donating the material and labor to do all of the roofs at 10th and Washington Gym.
Oh, that's great.
Wow.
So,
That's nice.
yeah.
They should get his name and number.
That was, yeah, it was Monolith Construction.
Okay.
That's who it was, so, Chris.
Fantastic.
Don't you have like a schedule, a rotation schedule, where on a certain day you visit certain fields, or your crew does?
When season kicks off, that's correct. Yeah, and that's based on the schedule for each field in each league, you know, as it's played out. Yes.
Is the field at Peters Park on that schedule?
Not during regular play, because no one's ever played games there. It's just a practice field. So once season starts, Commissioner, all of our efforts are at 10th Street. So, you know, but preseason, I think as Commissioner Langston's pointing out, we try to clean that, you know, preseason so they can practice. And then
I'd like to see it added to the schedule, even if it's only each month, once a month, or instead of having to bring it up and say, hey, can we get the grass cut, or can we get it in shape? Let's put it on the schedule.
Summer months get a little difficult because of the gym and the kids. As it stands now, the inmate squads between the city and county do it, so it gets kind of jumbled, you know, during that program. But we'll do our best to see if we can't, you know, try
at
to.
least, you know, cut the grass and then,
Sure,
and
sure.
those things. Thank you.
Mr. Langston, you got anything else? I'll add to that discussion is they've got 5 employees that look like they may be hired. They're getting close. 4 now? Oh gosh, dropped one. So we're trying our best and getting them qualified and passing all the tests they need to pass. And so hopefully that'll ratchet up a little bit. I've asked Jim to ask John to get back on that regular maintenance on all our ball fields because it's in season now. So we'll start seeing some grass flying, I think, pretty soon. So that's about it. No, one more thing. I'll congratulate our attorney on his recent nuptials. So we're happy to hear about that.
Thank you.
That's great. That'll be in the minutes too. Yeah.
Can I say something else?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to congratulate Port St. Joe High School Lady Tiger Sharks.
Thank you, thank you.
State runners-up in state championship game. They lost by 1 point, but I still want to congratulate them.
Absolutely.
Great season.
It sure was. Thanks to them and you guys and coach and everybody else. That was a good run, and 1 point's kind of hard to swallow sometimes.
It is.
Yeah, yeah. So, anything else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, we adjourn.